We were taking the pallet apart, again by the meat department, and we both stopped in our tracks when we heard the intercom turn on. We looked up towards the speakers, and heard the intercom click and then hang up. Kim looked at me and said, "It's going to be one of those nights again. Isn't it?" I gave her a nervous laugh and I nodded my head in agreement. We kept wheeling boxes over to the aisles, and when I was alone in one aisle, I heard some knocking on the front door. I was in the last row, so I assumed Kim was going to unlock the door for whoever that was knocking. I dropped off my last box and started stalking the area right away. I heard steps coming up to my aisle, and I looked up, expecting to see Kim. Instead, I saw a feminine person wearing a salmon-colored hoodie over their head and dark pants. I looked at my phone and noticed it was barely midnight. I thought it was one of the ladies in the cleaning crew, and that they must have been early that night. I kept stalking things down the aisle for another 30 minutes or so when I heard knocking. It was the front doors, and the knocking was getting louder and harder. I peeked at the doors, and I saw the cleaning crew standing outside. I started walking towards them, and Kim and I met at the doors. We unlocked the doors, let the ladies in, and locked up again. As we walked back to our aisles, I told Kim I thought the cleaners were already here, that I had seen one walk past my aisle. Kim said there was no way, she hadn't opened the doors to anyone that night yet. I told her I had heard knocking and then saw that person. She chuckled nervously and said, "Oh my God, it really is one of those nights. Why does this only happen when we're alone?" I shrugged and didn't have an explanation for any of it. We went back to our spots to work. About an hour later, I heard steps again coming towards my aisle. I looked up because I thought it was Kim announcing she was going to lunch. Instead, I saw a tall, slender, all-black figure walk by. As soon as it disappeared from walking by, some loaves of bread and a cereal box fell off the shelf. I was still looking in that direction and at the fallen bread, speechless and in disbelief. At that moment, Kim walked into sight and she came to me quickly, asking if I was okay. I told her what had happened, and she was also speechless. We walked to the back of the store and got to a computer together, and she looked up the surveillance for what had been just a few minutes before. In the surveillance, we watched me look up, then the stuff falling off the shelf with no explanation, followed by Kim turning into my aisle. The cleaners were still in the back of the store getting their supplies, and there was no black shadow or anything in the video. Kim believed me, which made me feel better, but I was still very unsettled and uneasy the rest of the night. We took our lunch break together, which we never did, and just talked about my kids, and her grandson and dogs. We went back down to the store and finished our shift. That day I had a rough time sleeping. I kept seeing the salmon-hooded person and the dark shadow whenever I closed my eyes. I finally slept a few hours, and woke up to a weird sound. I opened my eyes and heard what sounded like someone shaking the closet doors. I sat up in bed and the sound stopped. I remember thinking to myself that the last thing I needed was a demon at my house too. I drove to work that night, a little tired from not sleeping so well. I met Kim at the computers and she slammed her hands in the keyboard and says I could not sleep today at all. "How are you doing?" I let her know I also couldn't sleep well, and then she said, "And when I finally did go to sleep, I woke up to some weird sound from my closet. I thought it was my stupid dogs, but they were in bed with me. I remember just answering with a loud, "What?" since I had the same exact thing happen to me. We were both creeped out and agreed to work together that night. The night went pretty smooth. We heard the drink case doors slam a few times, and we ignored it. We went together to unlock the doors for the cleaning crew and other deliveries. We were almost done stocking everything. We were on the last aisle towards the back of the store. The cleaners had left hours ago, when the big silver double doors to go to the back of the store suddenly swung open to their fullest capacity. Both Kim and I let out a shriek and jumped in surprise. We walked towards the doors that were still swinging slowly from being thrown open. Kim peeked through one of the door's windows, and I peeked through the other, when we both saw the tall, black, shadow figure walk past hurriedly. Kim jumped back, and I just watched it disappear into the hallway leading to the deli kitchen. We both confirmed with each other that we'd seen the shadow, and that we weren't crazy. We walked through the doors and followed the hallway into the kitchen. We didn't see anything out of place. We went back to work. We cleaned up all the aisles and took our last break. It was still around 5 a.m., so no one was there yet for opening shift. We went back to the first aisle that wasn't refrigerated or a freezer, and every single loaf of bread was on the ground. We quickly picked everything up and started to hear the drink case doors slamming shut. They were slamming so hard that we could hear the glass bottles start clinking together. We went over to the drinks and, no surprise, no one was there. Kim and I were ready to lose our minds, and she suggested we go check out the surveillance. We got to the part of watching the bread falling off the shelves all at once, and then we watched all the drink case doors opening and slamming shut all at the same time. I just couldn't believe it. We even thought that maybe we were just tired from not sleeping enough, so it was all in our heads. But it obviously wasn't. A few nights went by, Kim and I expecting crazy things to happen, yet nothing at all happened. We joked that the demon was done and that it had gone next door to a different store. A few weeks went by without any of our usual paranormal activity. But it was a little too good to be true. It was mid-June, and it was my first night back from being off for a few days for vacation. It had been so long anything had happened that I had pretty much put it all behind me and almost forgotten about it. We were all doing our usual routines and stocking away when I felt something suddenly hit my head. It hit my head pretty hard. I even heard the impact. It was something small. I turned around thinking either Kim or Tim were just teasing me, but no one was in sight. I stood up and suddenly a rusty nail fell from my hair and bounced onto the floor. I bent down to pick it up, and I held it in my palm. I was confused about how or from where that had come from. I shrugged it off and kept working. A few minutes later, I heard Tim yell. I got up and walked towards his section. I found Kim laughing and Tim rubbing his head. He turned to me and asked why I had thrown a rusty nail at him. I told him I had the same thing happen to me just minutes before. I pulled my own rusty nail from my hoodie's pocket and showed him. He showed me his rusty nail and said it had really hurt when it hit him. Kim thought we were both joking and that we'd planned it all out to scare her. We kept telling her we didn't, but she didn't believe us. For weeks, things kept falling on us, or nearly missing us.